Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host here on Introspection. And today, my guest, as you can see, is not the most talkative person or even a person at all. However, he or she is here to help me celebrate and talk about the Day of the Dead, or as it's known in Mexico, El Dia de los Muertos. Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in. It's a very old holiday that can trace its beginnings back before Christianity came into Mexico, probably to the time of the Aztecs and the Toltecs and the Mayans. And then when Christianity came in, it began to take on some of the trappings and customs of All Saints' Day. So Dia de los Muertos is not Halloween. It's actually November 1st, which is the same as All Saints' Day. However, it starts on Halloween at midnight, and it's when it's believed that the veil between our world and the other world, where souls are, is the thinnest. What I love is that in Mexico, death is a normal part of life, or just the other side of the coin. And they use Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, as a day to remember, to honor, and to celebrate those people who have passed on from this world into the spirit world. They do it with parties. They do it with bright colored skulls, sometimes called skull candies, which are made to look like skulls. They do it with bright color punched paper decorations, flags, if you will, and also with marigolds, bright yellowy orange marigolds all over the place. And if you've ever smelled a marigold, they also have a very peppery kind of smell. And I'm wondering if that's not part of the significance, where maybe it alerts you, it wakes you up to smell something else, something different. On Dia de los Muertos, there's celebrations of dancing and singing and music and honoring the people who have passed on. I'd love to see us do more of that. That, yes, death is a sombering idea, but it is so mostly for those of us who are alive, more so than for those who have passed on, since we don't really know for sure what happens after we leave this earth. We do know that the mourning is really for us. And on Dia de los Muertos, it's a time for us to celebrate what those who have left our lives had to share with us. It's, I think, a very healthy way to celebrate the fact that we do have cycles in our life. We go through different periods. We go from newborn to infancy to babyhood to toddlers to preschoolers to elementary schoolers to middle school to prepubescent, then to teenage adolescence, through our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and hundreds if we're so fortunate. And each stage of our life offers something different. As we pass from one stage to another, certainly when we're cognizant of it, I don't think infants and babies understand this, but as we get older, we understand that we leave some things behind. We experience a life quake, a life transition, and at the same time, we gain experience, we gain knowledge, we gain the ability to do new things. I think adolescence is one of the best examples of it. I mean, think about a child or a teenager before they turn, depending on where you live, 15 or 16, and all of a sudden they can get a driver's license or a permit. It means that gone are the days that mom and dad or siblings had to drive them every place. They now have freedom to be able to do that, to set some of their schedules. Think about when you were first able to vote, and the excitement, at least for me, of being able to have a say to some extent in what happens with the country that I live in. The transition from living in my parents' house up through high school to moving and living in a dorm in college. There was both grief over leaving their home and leaving security, leaving behind a neighborhood and a community and friends. Maybe you were a popular kid. Maybe you were a teacher's pet. You certainly knew the rules and you knew the ropes by the time you were a senior in high school. And then what happened? Then you moved to college, and all of a sudden the rules were all different. You may not have had the same kind of curfew. You may have been able to have much more freedoms, and yet you were still grieving and losing some of the stuff that made things secure. Not that the life transition or the life quake was a sad one in and of itself. It was an exciting one, and yet it brought with it some grief. And then, of course, at some point in our lives, as we all do, we experience the death of a significant person in our life, or a pet, or a job, or income. Those are all things that we mourn. And I want to suggest that we think about having a Day of the Dead not for our own lives, but for the things that we're grieving, and to celebrate the gifts that they have added to our lives. Add some bright color into your life. Be like my friend here, who's bright and cheerful, and I think that's a smile. You can start on Halloween with observance, or you can wait and start on the 1st of November. But you've got at least 2, if not 3 days to celebrate the things that you have lost in your life that are not findable. Sometimes when you say, oh, I lost so-and-so or something, you're like, oh, did you find them? Well, obviously death is not something, you're not going to find that person again except within your heart and in your memories. So take some time. Think about them. Think about the gifts that they've given you, the memories, the experiences, the things that they've said to you that have left you feeling warm and loved and cared for. And think about the experiences in your life where things didn't go as you wanted. So perhaps a job loss. And go back also and think about what you got from that. Did you get skills? Did you get experiences? Did you form relationships with people? And be grateful. I believe that every single day of this year, of every year of our lives, we can find people and things and experiences for which to be grateful. There are days that they may seem like tiny little things. Like for me, I'm looking out the window right this second and it stopped raining. So I'm grateful that we have a few minutes of not sunshine, but at least of no rain. I'm grateful that the silly altercation my dog had on Saturday with another dog at his daycare was not more serious. I'm grateful he came home okay, not too much the worse for wear. I'm grateful for the pictures that my daughters post of their kids, especially now seeing them in their Halloween costumes and having a lot of fun with trick-or-treating, trunk-or-treating, all of those things, and for the experiences that I have. The fact that there's internet for me to be able to communicate with all of you and to tell you that this Wednesday on November 1st, the book that I'm part of called Life Shifts is being released. It's been a real labor of love for 23 authors. We have each written a chapter, and the whole process has been 9 months. So it really is a labor of love. The book is specifically designed for women going through mid and later life transformations and shifts. Each of us tells a personal story of a life shift in our lives. And it's going to be a really exciting day of a release party. And I want to encourage you, if you've got time on November 1st, there'll be a live at noon and a live at 3. There'll be drawings for gifts every single hour from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'd love to encourage you, number one, to come on the Facebook page, which is Inspiration Lounge for the lives. And also on November 1st or after, but preferably on, go to Amazon.com and order a copy of the book. It would support us greatly. We know that it's going to be an Amazon bestseller in a few categories, but we need your help. We need you to support us just like we support you. Also, I want to let you all know that I've opened up a few slots in my coaching practice to work with somebody going through a life quake, which the best way to describe it is a life transition on steroids. It's the kind of transition that under normal circumstances would have been like, okay, I could do it. And in this case, it might be that there have been multiple ones. I think that sometimes life quakes are similar to earthquakes in that you have aftershocks. So you have one big earthquake, and then the aftershocks are still waking you up and shaking you up. And with life quakes, sometimes they happen one right after the other, whether it's the death of a spouse or a parent or a child or somebody very, very important to you. And then right on the heels of it is the death of a friend or loss of a job, or that you need to move for some reason. I want to let you know I've opened up those slots, and I would love to be able to help you navigate through that and come out loving your life, living your life, and finding joy in the new person who you are. You know, life will change. Your life will never be the same as it was before your life quake. But that doesn't mean that it can't be as wonderful, sometimes even better. It could be definitely different. So if nothing else, it won't be the same, it will be different. And sometimes the exciting thing is that you get to shape your new identity. One of the things I realized after my husband Steve passed away, and then years later after my mother passed away, was that I no longer played the roles that I played. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't really a daughter anymore. I mean, not that that could ever be taken away, but I didn't have a living mother. And I was like, wait a minute, now who do I want to be? Who am I? What roles do I want to take on? What things would light me up? And that's what I started to work on and what I like to help other people work on. Finding the roles and whether it's a new career, it's a new interest, whatever that is, that's going to help them live a full and charged life. So with that, tomorrow it is Halloween here. Well, actually it's today, because this is going to be broadcast on Halloween. November 1st is Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, and observed some places other than Mexico, and the launch for the new book, Life Shifts. So I want to encourage you all to buy a book, celebrate Dia de los Muertos and the people in your life who are no longer in this plane. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot for listening. Remember, I love you. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner Lesser.